WNST, local sports fan around here. Certainly the Orioles getting the tribe broom up their backsides and pretty much getting ousted from legitimate playoff contention unless they win a whole bunch of games here soon. And the Ravens sort of snuck into this season with low expectations, but a 20-0 victory, and I celebrated in style in the town where this guy and I usually get together for NFL Combines. It's usually about 10 below when Sporting News' Vinny Iyer and I say hello and make our way somewhere in and around St. Elmo Steakhouse. But Vinny, I'll tell you what, man, I went to Cincinnati, got the surprise of all surprises, did a bunch of radio on my way up to Indianapolis, and I had never been to Indianapolis when the weather was good. Bono sang on time. The roof was open. It is a lovely, lovely. The Redskins even lost. It's beautiful around here, Vinny.
Yeah, it's not bad. Having a shutout victory to start the season and then cap it with that. You can't beat that just down the road. But the Ravens' performance, you can't say too much about the offense. It was struggling for sure. But at least you got a big play from Jeremy Maclin. Danny Woodhead looked good until the car came out for his hamstring. But there's some more confidence than probably people expected out of this team coming out. And then the Bengals just an absolute disaster. I mean, I don't know what you can do now. Their offensive line is horrible. They can't really run the ball. Andy Dalton is just in a funk. So I thought this team could go into major free fall, and I think it started here. Maybe last year for sure, but I think it's totally there now.
Well, you mentioned the funk for Andy Dalton, and the funk would really be getting guys in his face, right? Literally, Suggs off the edge, Smith before he was injured, and we'll talk about Suggs in a minute, but when you can't protect your quarterback and you can't run the ball, you're where the Ravens have been since Kubiak left here, literally, right? I mean, Flacco gets a hard time, and I know his numbers, and he had some comments after the game about he'd rather throw the ball 50 times and score 40. Of course he would, but he's happy handing the ball off, especially with a bad back right now. This is a nice little recipe for Joe Flacco right now, for this offense, for our offensive line, which is coming together. And by the way, I need the plug here, Vinny. Wednesday night at Greenmount Station, crab cakes, beer, fun, swabbing for the Bone Marrow Registry, and Ryan Jensen, starting center for the Ravens, as well as right tackle Austin Howard, are going to be with us on Wednesday night. So there's my plug, Vinny. But then that is a plug for the offensive line, and we're going to talk about it. But a lot of the things that we have ripped Flacco about around here, what really got him injured 2 years ago, was this sort of problematic offensive line, and it's hard to get anything done, and then everything happens to the quarterback, and it happens very, very quickly. And in the case of Andy Dalton, I mean, we're talking about a guy with a lot of experience here, right? I mean, a guy's won a lot of games in this league, but did all of it on time with protection that he can count on. And I think guys get spooked, man. You know what I mean? Once the offensive line gets leaky, it really leads to a lot of problems in the quarterback's head for timing, for demand, for confusion, and for, quite frankly, having Terrell Suggs come in and stand over you,
Well, I think, unfortunately for Andy Dalton, he's one of the more dependent quarterbacks in the league. There are some that can make things happen with their feet, move around, and when the offensive line isn't cooperating, sometimes you don't even care who Drew Brees has in front, or you're not even sure. Sometimes things can shuffle and he's still fine. But with Andy Dalton, things have to be right. He has to have the running game working. He has to have decent protection, time to throw. If he's a little bit off, everything is just going to come unraveling like this. And you'll hear the calls for A.J. McCarron after all, for what he did, and then he's got the Texans coming up here, which could be a nightmare again. But I'm not sure A.J. McCarron can do much when they have absolutely no chance to run the ball and really don't have any reliable guys yet. No John Ross yet there in that the receiving core where if A.J. Green's taken away, there's not too much. I don't think they use Tyler Eifert enough in other situations beyond the red zone. So this team has to make adjustments in a hurry. I don't know if Marvin Lewis he survived everything, but I don't know if he's going to survive this one.
Well, and I think that was my thought driving out of town up to Indianapolis on Sunday night, which was I wonder if Marvin will be here next year. And, Marvin's got nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, he rebuilt that whole thing, and if he wants to sail off into the Arizona sunset, have at it. I don't think he's thrown the towel in on this thing, and I certainly thought I would see a more formidable effort, but let's hear it for the Ravens defense. I mean, maybe the Bengals stink, and that's an assessment we can make about Houston right now or Indianapolis or anybody else that got waxed over the weekend. Hell, we're questioning the Patriots right now, and we're questioning the Seahawks all of a sudden and the Giants and anybody else that was supposed to be good who lost. But maybe the Ravens defense is really good, right? And certainly all of that, and I've been talking a lot about Suggs here because I think we should talk about Suggs this week. And Vinny, you're one of those guys who, like me, is in the Hall of Very Good for voting on Hall of Fame players and whatnot. Would he get your vote today, and would he get it in the future? I know he's going to be in the conversation and he will be talked about at some point, but to me, he has more things he has to do to get in the Hall of Fame, probably in the same way that Steve Smith really helped himself around here the last 3 years with the way he played at the end, which is something not a lot of players, Tony Baselli didn't get that. Terrell Davis didn't get that afterglow of what happens after you're 30. Obviously, Brady's checked all those boxes, as did Favre in his many comebacks and whatnot, and showing some sort of grit, but boy, Suggs got himself in shape, and he was the factor for me in the game and the difference maker, especially in the first half. And I don't know how that holds up in Week 14 for a 35, 36-year-old guy, but I am very, very impressed by what he did on Sunday.
Definitely, and you look at how they've rebuilt this team, and the one piece that everyone said, when are they going to get someone to replace Terrell Suggs? And he's kind of the glue that keeps all these young guys together and really helps that secondary make these big plays off the pressure. So, I mean, when you look at his role now, I mean, you've had different guys over the years. It's been Ray Lewis, obviously, Ed Reed and all that. But I think Suggs may not get enough credit for as much as he deserves for being that type of guy now for this team. I think it really depends on how far they can go. Are they going to ride their defense in the playoffs? That'll definitely help Suggs' resume. But yeah, you don't see guys that old play that well and to be kind of the leaders with their play out there as much as he is.
Vinny Iyer joining us here from Sporting News. You can follow him out on Twitter at Vinny Iyer. That's VINNIEIYER, as well as at sportingnews.com. He's down in Charlotte, North Carolina, where they, traveled out to San Francisco. And, this is the time of year we do talk about the bad teams. And I don't know if we're going to put the Bengals in there or not, but boy, there are some places beyond Cleveland, and we have them this week, and we'll get to them in a minute, where it really does feel like there is no hope, and then you look up into the stands, and you're like, where the hell are all the people, right?
Yeah, it's just surprising that, this West Coast, I know we have West Coast bias, but when I see the 49ers and Rams in their stadium, the Rams, people should have come out to see them. They had their best performance in a long time out there, so there's a lot of teams out of sync, a lot of teams that are really bad. You look at the Colts, 49ers on that side of the spectrum, and then you have teams that are just trying to find their way with new identities. I think the team that impressed me the most was the Raiders, just going on the road, being solid, nothing fancy, doing what they usually do, and win the game. So I think it really helps to have that continuity going into Week 1, and makes it a lot easier. But anywhere you see that they had major personnel change or coordinator change, you saw those teams struggle among those contenders.
Vinny, let's talk about the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers in a close game in Cleveland. Cleveland's coming in here this week, and again, we're always on this. We judge these teams over 3 hours every week, and we have our little power rankings, and the Ravens are a little higher than we thought, and maybe the Steelers struggling in Cleveland, and certainly didn't run the ball. It was sort of a pitch and catch thing with Antonio Brown, from what I can tell, because I didn't watch the game. I only was scoreboard watching along with a lot of other Ravens fans. But, the problematic for the Steelers to not make that an easier game for themselves. But other than that, the Browns are coming in here this week. Should we be a little bit concerned about the Browns?
Well, I think you just can't take them too lightly. I think the one thing that the Browns really had to be disappointed in, they absolutely couldn't run the ball in that game. So I think that's going to be a thing. If the Ravens can win that battle up front, stop the run, I think it makes sense. I don't think they're going to have to commit extra guys to necessarily do that, which would be good, then you can disguise some things that you do on the back end against Deshaun Kaiser. So I think it's going to be a work in progress with Kaiser. He really needs that running game to work. But I think the biggest thing right now for the Ravens, they should know that the Browns can't push the ball downfield yet. And they'd like to. Kaiser has a big arm. Corey Coleman has the speed. But that's the thing you can kind of squeeze on them this week, and I think that's good news for Baltimore in this game.
All right, so good teams. Is Jacksonville a good team? They certainly look like a good team on the road against a bad team. We've got them 2 weeks from now, Vinny. We're going to be over in London. By the way, my plug for that is on Saturday, the 23rd. Next weekend, we're going to be at the Fox at XL in the Docklands area of East London. Come on over, ride the Emirates Air cable car across the River Thames to the O2 Arena. We're going to be doing that next week as well. And maybe we're going to see a better version of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I would say one thing. The loss of Robinson, obviously, that's going to be a big factor, but that defense looks like it's going to show up every week.
Yeah, I think the two things that you're going to be able to count on the Jacksonville Jaguars every week is a very good defense and a very good running game. I think the X factor here really in their push, if they're going to be a playoff team, is Blake Bortles. We just didn't know. I mean, that's the guy that progressed and pushed them backward last year. He wasn't great at all in Houston, but he didn't get sacked. He didn't make a mistake, and they were able to win the game. So if they can play the defense the way they do and pound away at Fournette, they're going to be a factor in every game. You just really wonder now, without Allen Robinson, very limited passing game, how much they can really trust Bortles. I think you'll see a lot of loading the box, taking their chances with Bortles beating them. So they're going to have to find some kind of offense to be a contender right now. That's why you kind of like Tennessee, because you trust their offense most of that division.
Well, I mean, for the Ravens, in our perspective here, Cleveland this week, Jacksonville the week after that, and to your point, troubled offenses, kind of like the Bengals, troubled offenses, troubled quarterbacks, and a Ravens defense that has, really kind of put its foot down and said, we're going to play defense in this league, and if you take the run away, it's over, right? I mean, literally, you force teams to do something that they can't do all day, which was really to the Ravens' detriment on their offensive side when Flacco's out there tossing the ball around 50 times. They say it's a passing league. Go ahead and try to pass 50 times a week, and I guarantee you're going to lose if you're doing that more than you're not.
No, I think you have to pass within the flow of the game, and I think the Ravens have to just realize what kind of team they are and what kind of opponents they are. And sometimes you don't need to get in a shootout to win. You need to just play solid, protect the ball, play sound defense, and you're going to win a lot of games just doing that. So you look at a lot of teams are like that, I think, around the league. I think you can put the Texans, that Corey, the Jaguars. They don't want to be exposed and throwing the ball too much, and the Ravens may not need to. This is kind of why, looking at their early schedule, I thought if they could get through this Bengals game, then I thought this is a team that can build a pretty good resume to try to get into the playoffs. So I think that's why I picked them, and I think it's going to be them. You can trust them a little bit more with Flacco, even though he can have up and down. You can trust him more than some of those other shaky quarterbacks because you know how far he can go when he's playing well.
Vinny Iyer joining us here from Sporting News. He is in Charlotte, North Carolina. Vinny, I'm going to tell a little off-the-air story on the air here. I said to you, hey, you're in Charlotte, so your team was out in San Francisco. I said, do you go to all the games? And you said, nah, I only really go to the primetime games because, when 1 o'clock games happen, I want to be in the command center, watching all the games on Red Zone and whatever. And I got to tell you, on those weekends when we play a Thursday night game, or I don't have to go on the road and work my way through the Cincinnati airport or the Indianapolis airport or going over to London, I love sitting me on the couch with some wings and some beer and my cat and, my laptop open. Dude, week 1, I'm in Cincinnati, and I've seen plenty of those empty green seats there over the course of 2 decades. But what happened in San Francisco, what is, always happened in Jacksonville and a lot of other places, the LA experiment that we all sort of knew probably wasn't going to go all that well. I don't know how it's going to go any differently if they build a 103,000-seat stadium out in Inglewood, in some big clamshell sitting out there on the beach and expecting everybody to run there and give them $200 to sit and watch the Rams or the Chargers play. But the word around the league is there's some problems here, and the problem isn't I don't like the NFL or I'm boycotting Colin Kaepernick, although I do see some of that stuff, Vinny. But I think the problem here is there's a lot of Vinnies out there and probably a lot of Nestors out there that if I didn't do this for a living and I looked at a $200, $300, $400, $600 day, getting hammered out in the sun at a football game that I've done 1,000 times, maybe the couch isn't such a bad experience. And the one thing that the Ravens and every team suffers from here, and you know this, Vinny, is even if you're a season ticket holder, you go to the home games. And then every other week, you got your church, your family, your group, your kids' soccer, whatever it is, and you do plant your butt on the couch or at your favorite sports pub or with your friends or out in the backyard, whatever that your ritual is, whatever your football church is on a Sunday. And then the next week you go back to the tailgate lot, and it costs a lot of money to do that. And the thing at home ain't so bad. I mean, they've made the home product so incredible that the backdrop really, really suffered on Sunday.
Yeah, I don't think the NFL really wants to admit how good the home viewing experience is, and it's ironic because we were talking about TV ratings, but when you stay at home, I mean, you're looking at maybe $400 to watch all the games the entire season, over 17 weeks with your package, and now you can put TVs outside, you can put TVs wherever and watch the games, and so the experience is just so good because you have a second screen that's going on. You can watch multiple games. I think sometimes they look at this window of games, and I think the one thing I suggested, I think, last year to improve the NFL is maybe having 4 windows of games. I know it seems insane, but college football does it, and it's fine, although sometimes you can have what you had over the past weekend with all those games at once at 7:30, but you can avoid that in the NFL. You don't need to put all those games at once. You can maybe break them up by time zone or whatever, and maybe that's what they need to go to a little bit. And I don't know if that's going to change the stadium experience versus the TV experience, but I think TV is just so good right now that if you love football and you really want to consume a lot of the NFL, that's the best way to do it at 1 o'clock.
Well, I don't know what that means for empty seats. And, maybe the pricing's wrong. I mean, certainly the pricing's wrong because people aren't buying it, right? But, I mean, the San Francisco thing, wow, right? I mean, it's one thing to see these shades of empty seats in the preseason. That was just kind of disgraceful, quite frankly.
Yeah, and then you had tickets for $6 for a game there in Los Angeles for the winning team that you could have got tickets to go see the team that won blowout fashion at home. So I just think there's a lot of other things that you could be doing. There's a lot of people that are investing on Saturdays for their college football team, and they can't afford doing back-to-back through their pro team as well. So you just have to be realistic about how you're reaching people, and maybe that the best means that they can enjoy the games at their leisure, it might be television more weeks than not.
Vinny, sort of last thing for you here, last shot. Patriots losing the biggest story of Week 1 in your mind?
Oh, definitely. I mean, to start Week 1 like that, I knew right when that happened things were going to be out of whack. The weekend, you just knew that was going to happen, and this team's not playing well. At least we had some good offenses going to work there. A lot of offenses disappeared over the weekend, but when you look at the Patriots, I thought they were close to being invincible. Like, they could do anything they wanted, but the Chiefs' reality struck. The defense, those guys, Justin Houston, all of them balled out as much as they could. Alex Smith found a new second gear to say, hey, don't forget about me in the AFC, and Kareem Hunt was just on fire. So the Patriots are picking up the pieces of their defense, and they don't get a break with the Saints coming up. So it's going to be interesting to see if the defense is going to hold up there in New England. Is it just a fluke with all the new pieces, or do they overpay for Stephon Gilmore, and they're going to be feeling the effects of this for quite a while?
Dude, we're talking about football. Isn't life good, right? I mean, this is fun. This is what it's all about. I mean, we waited 9 months. Maybe it's fun around here because we won 20-0. If I was in Cincinnati right now, I'd probably be flatulent from leftover chili and very, very upset that the Reds stink and the Bengals stink too. So got a little bit of that. But there's hope in 16 places. I mean, even in Jacksonville, they have hope, for crying out loud. So God bless them. Great having you on as always, Vinny. We will continue to check in throughout the course of the season. And I had a beer in Indianapolis in your honor on Sunday night, okay?
All right, thank you.
All right, Vinny Iyer, there he goes. I always see him at the Super Bowl, and I run into him at the Combine out in Indianapolis. By the way, first time I was ever in Indianapolis where the weather was good. They had the roof open in the dome, and Bono was singing his lungs out, and the Edge was rocking the guitar. It was a great Sunday night. It's going to be a great week, man. Terps are 2-0. Ravens are 1-0. We got Cleveland coming in. We got this incredible trip to London next week that so many of our friends are going on. Family, my son, his wife. My wife's donor, Niels, is meeting us over in London. We're doing a big party over the River Thames. We're going to take the Emirates Air cable car across the River Thames to the O2 Arena next Saturday. We're going to be at the Docklands area. It's a place called the Fox at XL. It's Saturday from 11 to 3. One party, one place. That's all we're doing in London because everybody's going to be scattered on game day, getting in and out of the tube. But Saturday afternoon, come. I hope we get good weather. It'll be awesome to see you. Throw me an email, nasty@WNST.net. All the information up on the website as well. I am on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook Live, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. Don't forget, we're at Greenmount Station on Wednesday night with Ryan Jensen, as well as Austin Howard. So we'll talk a little offensive line. We're going to swab for the Bone Marrow Registry, tell some stories with linemen because we love O-linemen, and we love when they protect the quarterback and run the ball. And we're going to have some crab cakes as well. So I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.